How do you punish somebody for leaking somebody's personal information online? This is the current situation that is happening between SSSniperwolf and Jacksfilms, where Sniperwolf doxed Jacksfilms. And what does doxed means if you're not sure? In short, it's releasing somebody's address publicly to the world. So in a brilliant stroke of knowledge and wisdom, Sniperwolf released Jacksfilms' home address and went to his house at 10 p.m. to film a video outside of it, which was then posted on Instagram to 5.6 million followers. She deleted it shortly after, and that led to a huge outrage from the internet, because what are the rules? How can a streamer, what can they get away with in an internet age? And what is the privacy that content creators or celebrities need to maintain for both themselves and for others? And what happens if that is ever broken? So I know most people are aware of the situation, or at least something's going on, as it has gotten huge on the internet with 30 million views on Twitter. But what crimes are actually at stake here? Well, there's a few. There's cyberbullying, harassment, stalking. And those are the three principal ways currently that something such as doxing or cyberbullying or situations such as these are handled legally, which can carry with it a fine of up to $10,000 and a couple years in prison, up to 5, but normally it's significantly less, and it depends a lot on what has happened. And we know from history that celebrities and famous people almost always tend to get off on the way easier side of the spectrum. So let's get into the exact details so that you can make a decision for yourself, what you think about the situation and what should happen next. Let's get into it. This is Jacksfilms, or JCade on Twitter, and on this night, Sniperwolf posted, "Should I go to at Jacksfilms? He lives 5 minutes away from my shoot." We also see that this has a ton of views. This is not a small situation. And then down in the comments, we can see that on October 13th, Jacksfilms said she literally posted a video of the outside of our house for all of her 5.6 million followers to see, then deleted it. In what universe do you think this is okay? In what reality do you live where you think this behavior is justified? She's no longer a silly creator that steals content, teehee. She's a creep that stalks and threatens her critics. Yikes. Thanks to this lovely leak from Sniperwolf, we know that Jacksfilms lives in Maryland, which is important because in the US, there's state and federal laws. If you're in the US, you know what this is. If you're outside, essentially there's a national government and then a local government. They have certain laws and certain protections against cyberbullying and stalking. In 2013 in Maryland, Grace's Law was passed, which makes it a misdemeanor to bully somebody through computer or cell phone. Then an amended Grace's Law 2.0 was passed in early 2023 to prevent social media bullying. A person can face up to a $10,000 fine and 3 years in prison. It would be an interesting case whether cyberbullying occurred or not. But one thing is for sure is that cyber stalking did occur. And for that, we can go to Maryland's stalking laws to find the information. In the state of Maryland, stalking is defined as for an individual to undertake a pernicious or evil-minded course of conduct that includes pursuing or approaching the victim where the perpetrator's goal is to place, or the perpetrator knows or should have reasonably known the conduct would place the victim in a reasonable fear of any of the following: fear of serious bodily injury, fear of assault, fear of certain sexual offenses, which I won't say because it's a YouTube, but fear of passing away, or fear that a third person may suffer any of the acts listed above. And this is defined as a misdemeanor with up to 5 years in prison and a fine of $5,000 or less. And an individual is guilty of harassment if they engage in malicious course of conduct or commits a single act of following the victim around a public place in such a manner that the victim becomes alarmed or seriously annoyed, and the individual does so after being given a reasonable request or warning to stop, with the intent to harass, annoy, or alarm, and without legal purpose for conduct. Now, this talks about being in a public place, and somebody's home is certainly not a public place, and hence there can be stronger penalties if you're showing up at somebody's door unannounced. This becomes more difficult when we take a look at online media because there's not as much regulation for things that happen online. There are some basic coverage, such as if you intend to annoy, alarm, or harass the recipient through electronic communication, or you don't stop after being reasonably warned to do so. What this means is most states do not have sufficient laws to stop things like doxing or swatting or these other malicious acts that people can take that don't necessarily directly harm the person but are absolutely inappropriate and not okay. Here's the simple truth about what happened. You can go to jail for doxing even though it is not specifically illegal because it can be a criminal offense for things like harassment, stalking, intimidation, identity theft, or incitement to violence. Legal actions take months if not years. We won't see anything until the situation is long behind us, but nonetheless, I kind of think of it like this. If you know Justin Bieber or have things like his home address or know where he's going to be or his phone number, and you intentionally leak that to millions of people online, there has to be a consequence. And exactly what it is tough to define, but there is no doubt that it is going to be invasive to that person's life, for their privacy. Because we know that there's always bad actors, if you release it to millions of people, there's going to be a few people who take that way too far, whether that's showing up at their house, criminal acts against that person. Exactly what happens remains to be seen, but there is no doubt that this behavior is not okay, and it's going to set a precedence for what happens in the future. Hey, you're awesome, and see ya.